Groove Cannon asks, would you call the purposeful refusal by hospitals and doctors to document COVID's mortality a conspiracy? Like, is the CDC via the government rejecting these numbers? Hi, thanks for asking. I should start by saying I don't use the word conspiracy basically ever, because I think a lot of the time, even though I know conspiracy theorists are like, there's a difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy. I posted a video where I mentioned that at the beginning and they lost their fucking minds. Anyway, what I think, based off of a decade of research, learning about this particular system and the way that it dehumanizes the most of us, is that unfortunately, this system makes otherwise good people do really terrible things. And I mean that. I mean that in every single way imaginable. Through my work, I've created a framework called critical media ecology. The three phrases that sum it up is we only know what we know, everything becomes normal in repetition, and everything is connected. And this speaks to exactly your question. Doctors are a media, if you think about it, as are any types of diagnosis, the tests themselves, the data that counts the cases. These are all media. This is why me, a media and communication PhD, is qualified to talk about specifically this issue as the media and communication failure that it is. My specialties are in identity, relationships, and technologies and systems of power, which all of these things are intricately intertwined in. So this is to say that regardless of intention, doctors are trained into a system that unfortunately within the US and really within the transnational and global capitalist neoliberal ideology is incredibly dehumanizing to all of us, especially those of us in the global south, but really any of us that are deemed unworthy victims, or those of us who have been historically and intentionally disenfranchised, like obviously especially anyone gender marginalized, anyone black or brown, anyone of a low or no income status, etc., anyone disabled. The reason why when doctors go to medical school, they're learning specific things and then basically taught in really implicit but also often overt ways to basically ignore the voices of disenfranchised groups, is because of the system that we exist within has eugenics bound up into it as a feature. It's not a bug. It's the nature through which the current system exists. So this is to say, because we only know what we know, everything becomes normal repetition, and everything is connected. Most of the time, people are not taught about the socio-historical deliberate disenfranchisement of groups, and then that gets bound up in the education of people that work at hospitals, people that become doctors, people that become nurses, people that become teachers, people that become politicians. All these people were only born not that long ago. And the system is doing what it was made to do. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it is so much less about like a need to determine or to pinpoint like this is why it's happening because blah 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 lizard people QAnon bullshit, and more about, hey, there's a transnational capitalist class, the oligarchy, the 1%, the billionaires that deliberately have done everything they possibly can to maintain power and wealth and control. And that is not, it is a matter of fact that, and I have done everything I can to avoid using the C words to describe that, because I know, as someone that has a specialties in media and communication, that this was a very deliberate and long-term goal of this particular group of people who have every agenda, every deliberate choice to maintain the current system that is a neoliberal transnational capitalist system that only benefits them at the detriment of all of us. And so until we make actual peace with that, until we account for the seriousness of the way that this is affecting our lives within what I've called the environment that has been changed by this virus, we are going to continue, apparently, after 5 years as a COVID realist, we are apparently going to see people ignore this disease as if it doesn't exist anymore, live in deep denial and delusion, and perpetually, because as all the research from the last 5 years shows, just get so fucking sick over and over and over and over again until they get disabled and or die of something they don't understand is caused by COVID infection. And that's everyone from the people that are supposed to know better, that it's their fucking job to read the medical literature, and they're not fucking reading it, and then they're being horrible role models and literally harming all of us. Because if the people in the fucking healthcare field aren't going to read the goddamn literature, how can you expect anyone that doesn't and doesn't have the skill sets to do research or to read it even and or are just completely unwilling to read the publicly accessible news releases available to people if they just Google COVID-19 damage? Like, it's just, that's what I think.